When Japan had expanded its Asian empire, the army and the Zaibatsu worked together to exploit natural resources and cheap labor from Southeast Asia, Manchuria, and Korea. There were familiar names. Mitsubishi built the Zero fighter. Nissan built its first cars in Manchuria. To remake Japan, occupation reformers wanted to break up concentrations of power, to change Japan from a nation of big business to a country of little businesses. They would bust up the Zaibatsu and release their natural enemies, the communists. Japan's communists were one of the few groups who had consistently opposed Japanese militarism. When SCAP released them from jail, the communists renewed their attacks on military government and big business.
赤沢元帥の占領政策の性格が分かりませんでしたね。
I did not understand what MacArthur was thinking. Maybe he was looking for a poison to destroy the old Japanese system. One of the poisons available was communism. So like a poison, he released the communists into the Japanese system.
Japan's conservatives were appalled by the American reforms. They asked MacArthur if he was trying to turn Japan red, and they wondered what kind of people would foment such a revolution from above. The broad directives came from Washington, but it was from the Daiichi building in downtown Tokyo that a few hundred American men and women set about reinventing Japan. Few had any knowledge of the country they were trying to change.
My knowledge was zero. I had no knowledge other than what one would glean from a daily newspaper about Japan.
MacArthur was remarkably ignorant about Japan. And there were only 60 Japanese he ever met, and none of them was lower in rank than a Supreme Court justice. I remember in the first election that Japan held under the occupation, I rushed in and said, Katayama has been elected. First Christian in Japanese history, first socialist in Japanese history. And MacArthur just looked up from his desk and said, does he speak English?
Many young reformers were ignorant of Japan, but they shared a faith in the American principles embodied by the New Deal of Franklin Roosevelt, using the power of government to promote social equality.
I think it was a mindset, an openness to change, not only an openness, but an impulse to promote change.
With missionary zeal, the occupation reformers tried to translate the New Deal into Japanese. The occupation was as arrogant as it was idealistic, one country trying to remake the other in its image. The biggest changes in Japan were engineered by SCAP's government section. It was headed by MacArthur's friend, General Whitney, a conservative Republican. But day to day, it was run by a more liberal man, Charles Cadies.
I was a thorough New Dealer, and I think we had people to the left of the New Deal.
Colonel Cadies was a man of tremendous talent, tremendous charm. I believe he was able to persuade General Whitney to go along with a number of reforms that Whitney might have been skeptical of because he was a profoundly conservative person.
MacArthur wanted to shake the foundations of the Japanese state. He ordered Japan's government to rewrite its 19th century constitution. When he didn't like the results, he turned the job over to General Whitney and the government section.
One day, General Whitney called us in and said, you are now a constitutional assembly and will work on writing the Constitution because General MacArthur is not satisfied with the various drafts which have been presented to him.
We are to be operating in top secret, and that this draft Constitution would, when completed, be presented to the Japanese government so that they could present it to the Diet and to the people as the Japanese government's draft.
To do the job, MacArthur gave the government section 6 days.
Well, I never thought we could do it. Once I heard him say he wants it by the end of the week. You know, I was thinking in terms of a month or 6 weeks.
This was the opportunity that many people would really give their right arms for, because here this small group of people were invested with the responsibility of drafting a constitution for one of the great nations of the world.
Got to accentuate the positive, feeling minus the negative.